Then there's the insurance exchange, and this is huge. The insurance exchange is kind of at the heart of the whole system. The idea is we're going to reduce the uninsured rate by bringing people into the insurance system in a couple of different ways. First of all, we'll get individuals to sign up, small groups, which is insured employers of 50 or fewer employees, although the law takes it up to 100 eventually. Any subsidized plan where there's a government subsidy, they'll enroll through the exchange in all government plans. Now I want to tell you this. In Minnesota there's 24,000 licensed health insurance agents, domiciled. That means they live here. There's 51,000 licensed health insurance agents in Minnesota. Okay? That's a lot of exchanges. That's a lot of people out there selling health insurance. It's why our uninsured rate in Minnesota is about the third lowest in the nation. It always has been, by the way. Right now it's about 9%, which is high. But 60% of the uninsured already qualify for a government health plan. So I'm not sure why the agents are being faulted for this. But so this is what the exchange does. It's one government organization that's allowed, that is given some leeway to sign up people into health plans. If you really analyze it, what it's about is increasing the Medicaid eligibility to 133, actually 138% of the federal poverty guideline, and saying you get now to enroll under Medicaid. You pay essentially nothing or very little for your health care. Unfortunately, there's no asset test, and what this means is literally a person could retire with millions of dollars of assets and little income because of the way they structure their income and qualify for free health care under Medicaid. We never allowed that before. We had asset tests where they would go and check out. And if you had a house, you got to get rid of your house, you got to spend it down, you can't even pass it on to your kids before you qualify for Medicaid. It isn't that we aren't taking care of people, it's just that we didn't want to take care of people who could take care of themselves. That was the logic. And so it's that, plus it's people who will get the ability to have their premiums bought down through tax subsidies. And I want to share with you some numbers. This will kind of blow your mind. Please, I'm not making a value judgment here. I'm showing you numbers, okay? Just numbers. 38.5 million, roughly 39 million are on Medicare right now. Plus under 65, there's another 8 million or so. These are people with end-stage renal disease who are disabled and that sort of thing. And then there's a variety of other government programs. Then I'm not saying good, bad, or otherwise. Medicaid CHIP is for children, military, obviously. VHA and other government programs, roughly 62 million Americans are covered by these plans. So if you take that all together, roughly 108 million Americans now get some or all of their health care through a government program. Good, bad, or otherwise. It's just a statement of fact. This is the population today, 314,247,580. That was as of this morning, I think, or yesterday. So roughly 34% of Americans already are receiving some sort of help with their insurance from the government. Interesting. But there's a lot of people who work for government. Again, not a value statement. People who work for government. I did a very conservative estimate, but if you take all the people that work for government and their employees across the United States, you add roughly 40 million more people. And with that 108 and that 40, you end up with roughly 150 million Americans who get their health care from the taxpayers in some way, shape, or form. So when we're talking about increasing the cost to taxpayers, this is a very significant thing that we're doing, roughly 47% of the population. This, by the way, would make us the 9th largest nation in the world, just the number of people that we insure through government health plans, paid for by tax dollars. The new law expands the buy-down of insurance through the exchanges by using tax credits. And it does it up to 400% of the federal poverty guidelines. Here's what this means in numbers. For a family of 4 today, and I believe these are 2011 numbers, I think, $22,350 would be considered 100% federal poverty. So 200 is 44,000. 300 is 67. 4 times is 89,000. It's actually up to about $91,000 now considered 400% of federal poverty guideline. That's household income. Household income is income earned by everyone who lives in the household, including some interest income, except for certain categories of income. Like a child who earns $4,500 or less and doesn't pay income tax, that's not counted. And so there's all of these add-ins and add-outs and so forth. But I asked the question, how many people is this? Because this is a nice statistic, but when you start throwing the numbers in, theoretically, 163 million, or 62% of the population, fall under that guideline. When you throw in everybody on Medicare and so forth, we're at almost 70% of the population that will qualify for a tax subsidy. That's what this new bill does. Congressman Kravach, when I told him this, said, where are we going to get that money? I don't know. I had the chance to brief him. I had him for 2 hours one day in his office in North Branch. Whatever you think of him, he sat and listened to my stuff for 2 hours. So here is really where the new system takes us. What I call a U.S. insurance utility in which there are fewer and fewer companies, affordable care, or accountable care organizations, and health insurance exchanges, 50 in the 50 states. In Minnesota, we're having a little trouble because the Republicans didn't want to pass an exchange. They thought it was an extension of ObamaCare, and they didn't want to do that. And the governor wants an exchange, so right now he's having one designed. I am dead in the middle of this policy development. That's what I was doing here at 4 o'clock, talking to agents about. The governor has decided that he is going to take advantage of the law. The law says that he must file by November 16th an exchange plan or reject it altogether with the federal government. He is going to, I have the copy of the letter right here, he's going to file his plan November 16th. Even though the legislature has not authorized him to do that, he is going to do it. But in his letter he says, I will show the plan before I file it after the election. So we get to find out what his plan is as soon as the election's out of the way. I'm trying to force him to reveal it before then. I think that would be a good idea for us to know what's up his sleeve. Underneath this, now this is oversimplified, folks, because the Independent Payment Advisory Board doesn't really oversee all that. But they will be at some point the arbiters of what is considered proper health care in the United States and a proper dollar amount to pay. So you could simplify this through the expansion of regulations in these three major organizations, the way that healthcare is now being organized. Why did I put that up there? We've met the enemy and he is us. Oh! What do we do about it? I teach American government. I call my class American Government for Real. I start next Tuesday, 14th year doing this. I love it. I love working with kids. This is on the pretest that they got in the mail today. I tell them to name the 4 branches of government and it drives them nuts. Because everybody knows there's only 3, right? I mean, there's the legislative, executive, and judicial. So what the heck is Mr. Racer talking about? Well, it's the first 3 words of the Constitution. We the people, excuse me, there are 4 branches. It's the way the thing starts. We the people in order to form a more perfect union. It doesn't say we the government in order to get along with people. It starts with we the people. And then it says we're going to define the powers in the Constitution. And so we asked the kids, does it define the powers of state government, law enforcement, federal government, or the citizens and residents? Well, the answer is the Constitution defines the powers of the federal government, not the other way around. It doesn't tell us what our powers are. It doesn't tell us what our rights are. It's us telling the federal government what its powers are. That's what the Constitution is. They're called enumerated powers. So we're telling the federal government what it can and cannot do. And we the people, the 4th branch of government, is the most important branch in that whole thing. If we would assert ourselves, which we've begun to do. The preamble is my favorite. How many people even pay attention to the preamble, for Pete's sake? Well, it's what the whole thing is about. And it says it was to form a more perfect union. a union that was better than the one we had before. It was to establish justice. Justice is a primary concern of government, to ensure domestic tranquility so we could live at peace in our country, to provide for the common defense, to provide for a defense for our borders and keep the oppressors out. And then there's this sort of wimpy one that pops up called promote the general welfare. I'll come back to that in a second. And the last one says secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, to make sure that we can pass along to our children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren this great land of freedom and liberty. Wow, that's good stuff, isn't it? We should just all go home. But you can't yet. I'm almost done, though. These 6 verbs are very informative. Form, I think of solid, establish, ensure, provide, and then promote. What is that? Promote is go to McDonald's. They have good hamburgers. I mean, that's promoting something. I think there's a reason they chose a verb that was very weak. Because the Constitution never gave the federal government the power to guarantee that we all had all these benefits. It never was there. It grew through time, over time. And instead of being the weakest of the verbs, it became one of the most active and powerful, and come to believe that it means the guaranteeing of the general welfare. Now, the newest right, and people would argue with me about this all the time, health care is a human right. Well, maybe it is. Maybe it is a human right. But is it a human right under our form of government that has to be delivered by a government health plan? So I teach the Declaration. Doggone it, we forgot the books, America's Creed, my favorite little book. I can't believe it, but we did. It's my fault. No, it's my wife's fault. We can blame her. She's not here. But it says, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, and health care. It's right there from the beginning, right along with food and clothing and shelter. It's right there in the Declaration. It's not really in the Declaration, folks. The right to pursue life, pursue liberty, pursue happiness, that's what's guaranteed. The rest we earn. And the Declaration also goes on to say that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from us, we the people. And it is our right, it is our duty to throw off such government and provide new guards for our future security. I am not here to lead you into rebellion. No way. What I am saying is let's rise up and take action that we are legitimately responsible to take from our very beginning. The only way to correct this, the only way to correct what's gone wrong with our healthcare system, frankly, is to take control of our lives, to become responsible for ourselves and our families and our neighborhoods and our communities, but to enforce our constitutions, we the people. You might say, how in the world did I ever get to that? I probably have offended a few people in this, but I can't help it. I like what Louis Gohmert said, when somebody's destroying the country you're sworn to protect and love, it's time to stand up no matter who gets offended. So if I've offended somebody, I don't apologize. I don't apologize. I love this country. I'd be happy to show you the pictures of my grandchildren. They're awesome. But I want them to have an opportunity in this country that they're losing. And they're losing it because we won't get our arms around problems and solve them because we're more concerned about the politics. I do have to touch on the Supreme Court decision just briefly. Florida Judge Roger Vinson wrote an incredible decision on the Commerce Clause in the Constitution, based on the fact that the Affordable Care Act established a mandate that said everyone must buy health insurance. And Judge Vinson said, essentially, Congress has no power to force a person to buy something they may not want at a price over which they have no control for something they may never use. For Pete's sake, the law says, because you won't do something, we're going to punish you. Do you understand? That's what the law says. And so we went to court and fought that, and we thought for sure the Supreme Court was going to say, that mandate is so central to the whole bill, it cannot be severed. There's no way you can abuse the Commerce Clause there. The Samuel Johnson's Dictionary 1755 says commerce is the trade of 2 items of value. What's that got to do with forcing someone to do something they don't want to do? Has nothing to do with it. But that's what Congress had decided. Well, here comes the Supreme Court and really shocked us. They said, no, you can't use the Commerce Clause that way. That's wrong. Yay! They got it right. But then they said, the mandate is a tax. What? So Congress has the right to tax you for inactivity under this new law. If you don't buy health insurance, you have to pay a penalty. Holy smokes, you got to pay $95 the first year. You know what health insurance costs in 1 month? I'll take that bet. Only then you become an IRS scofflaw. And you want to be under the IRS because that's the one who's going to enforce it.